need to make sure that this never happens again. And we will be working around the clock to do whatever's necessary to apprehend those that did this heinous thing today.
John's love for basketball began at the Pittsburgh Project, Urban Impact, Allegheny Elementary School, Allegheny Middle School, and Alderdice High School.
This is a 20-year-old man who would gun down an entire family at their son's funeral. In the late hours of October 15, 2022, at around 3 p.m., the Pittsburgh police would respond to reports of multiple drive-by shootings at a gas station on Cedar Avenue. But the tragedy that awaited them could only be imagined. When they arrived at the scene, they found the bodies of 3 individuals dead, lying on the side of the road with multiple gunshot wounds. But these shootings would only set off a chain of events days later at a funeral. As mourners gathered to say their goodbyes, a man would invade the service and gun down an entire family. But the worst was still to come. What unfolded next escalated into something even darker. But before tragedy struck, let's rewind to 2002 to understand the moments leading up to that fateful day. This is the life and death of John James Hornezes Jr.
Let's go! Yeah! Yeah! Let's go! Let's go! Yeah! Yeah! Where my pops at? Where my pops at? Yeah! Yeah! Hey, tell him, Jit! Tell him, Jit! Yeah!
Born in 2002 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, John James Hornezes Jr. was a young man whose story began with promise, resilience, and an unshakable love for his family and friends. To those who knew him best, John was not just another face in the crowd. He was a beacon of strength, compassion, and loyalty. He was the kind of person who would offer his last dollar to a friend in need, defend a loved one without hesitation, and bring light to the darkest moments with a smile that could instantly lift the spirits of those around him. Growing up in Pittsburgh, John was raised in a city that, while known for its rich history and culture, could also be unforgiving. John, however, carried with him a quiet strength that made him stand out. He was the kind of young man who didn't need to boast about his accomplishments. His actions spoke louder than words. He was a son, a brother, and a friend. Each relationship in his life a testament to his character and his commitment to those he cared about. John's love for basketball was one of the cornerstones of his identity. From a young age, the sport offered him an outlet for his energy, discipline, and focus. It wasn't just about shooting hoops or playing games. Basketball became his sanctuary. It was his way of staying grounded in a world that often seemed chaotic. Whether he was at local parks playing pickup games with friends or cheering on his favorite NBA team from his living room, basketball was more than just a sport. It was his passion. It was where he found peace, where he could forget his troubles, and where he could just be himself. Despite his dedication to the game, life was not without its challenges. Like many young men growing up in a tough environment, John faced his own battles. The streets of Pittsburgh, with their allure of danger and unpredictability, always close by. But John's inner strength and his desire to create a better future for himself kept him moving forward. He was determined to avoid the path that so many others had fallen victim to, and instead, he focused on his goals, building a life filled with stability, success, and happiness. That was until John's life would be cut short in the blink of an eye. On October 15, 2022, started as a normal day, just another Friday in Pittsburgh. John had plans with his friends. Simple plans: meet up, hang out, catch up. He had no reason to believe that this would be a day that would change everything, a day that would lead to his untimely death. That afternoon, John, along with 2 of his close friends, gathered at the Sunoco gas station on Cedar Avenue. The gas station was a regular spot for locals, a place to get snacks, chat, and wait for the bus or for friends. There was no cause for concern, no reason to feel unsafe. John was simply living his life, enjoying his day. But in a matter of moments, everything would change. An SUV slowly passed by the bus stop where John and his friends were standing. It seemed like any other vehicle, just another car passing through the street. But what followed would alter the course of John's life forever. Without any warning, gunshots rang out. In that instant, everything John had known, everything he had dreamed of, was shattered. But John and his friends won't go down without a fight. Without hesitation, they also fired back at the vehicle. The SUV was riddled with bullets as the trio unleashed a barrage of gunshots. The occupants of the SUV returned fire. What started as a one-sided attack quickly turned into a dangerous crossfire. Gunshots rang out in both directions. The street was no longer a place of peace. It had become a battlefield. The situation escalated rapidly as bullets flew in every direction, striking everyone in their path. Among the victims of this senseless violence was 20-year-old John James Hornezes Jr. He was struck by a bullet, and despite efforts to save him, he would not survive. In a flash, John's life, full of promise and ambition, was cut short by a violent act he could never have seen coming. But the shooting didn't just end with John's death. Two innocent bystanders, Betty Jean Averitt and Jacqueline Mihalik, were also hit by stray bullets.
They had been waiting for the bus, going about their day like anyone else, when they were caught in the crossfire. They didn't deserve to be part of this tragedy, but the violence didn't care. They too lost their lives in the same instant that John did. If only anyone knew, these incidents would set off a chain of events no one could imagine. As investigators began piecing together the events leading up to the deadly shootout, the tragic story of John's final moments became clearer. Pittsburgh's Cedar Avenue, once a seemingly ordinary street, had turned into a site of horrific violence. John's family, devastated by the loss, had to come to terms with a reality that no one should ever have to face. Their loved one, full of potential and promise, had been taken in a senseless act of violence.
The aftermath of the shooting brought a series of difficult challenges as police worked tirelessly to track down the suspects involved. Despite the chaos that unfolded, investigators managed to arrest 19-year-old Sharon Troutman, who was believed to be one of the men inside the SUV, and charged him with homicide for John's death. A few days later, 21-year-old Charles Hines, who had also been injured in the crossfire, was charged with homicide for the deaths of Betty Jean Averitt and Jacqueline Mihalik, the two innocent bystanders caught in the violence.
We now know the names of two teens charged in the shooting outside of a funeral that sent 6 people to the hospital. According to the criminal complaint, they are 19-year-old Sean Davis and 16-year-old Hezekiah Nixon. Both are facing several charges in relation to the shooting. Jessica Guay has the latest on the investigation.
Just as the investigation began to calm, something happened that left everyone in shock. The true ripple effect of this tragedy wouldn't be felt until the day of John Hornezes' funeral. What was supposed to be a somber, peaceful day of remembrance quickly turned into another nightmare. On October 28, 2022, John's family gathered at the Destiny of Faith Church in Pittsburgh's Brighton neighborhood to say their final goodbyes. The church, located on the 3700 block of Brighton Road, was filled with mourners, family, friends, and loved ones who had come to remember John's life, to honor him, and to provide support to each other in their shared grief. The funeral had already begun, and the mood in the church was a mix of sorrow and love as people came together to mourn John's untimely death. Some attendees prayed quietly, others sat in silence, their hearts heavy with the loss of a young man taken far too soon. But just an hour into the service, at 11:03 a.m., everything changed. Gunshots rang out, shattering the quiet and sending waves of panic throughout the church. What had been a space of mourning was now a chaotic battlefield. Mourners who had come to pay their respects suddenly found themselves fleeing for their lives as bullets tore through the air. People ran for cover, diving beneath pews, behind vehicles, and anything they could find to protect themselves. The sound of screaming filled the air as the church quickly descended into a scene of terror and confusion. Surveillance footage from outside Destiny of Faith Church captured the horrifying moment. People, once peacefully attending a funeral, were now scattered and running in every direction.
Shots ring out, sending folks scrambling outside Destiny of Faith Church in Brighton Heights. That's what you see on surveillance video from that day last October, as a family was saying their last goodbyes to a loved one.
The footage showed one woman falling to the ground, clearly struck by a bullet, but still trying to crawl to safety. In the chaos, a man with a gun was seen firing directly into the crowd, seemingly targeting random individuals. There was no rhyme or reason to the attack, just an unrelenting desire to cause as much harm as possible. This was not just a random act of violence, it was a deliberate, premeditated attack aimed at causing maximum damage. A group of individuals had specifically targeted a funeral, a moment of vulnerability, and turned it into a bloodbath. As the screams of the mourners echoed through the building, the question on everyone's mind was the same: why would someone attack a group of grieving people? It was clear that the shooting had been planned. Surveillance footage from the church and nearby streets captured two men dressed in all black, wearing balaclavas, and walking across the street from the church. For nearly 20 minutes, they observed the area, seemingly waiting for the right moment to strike.
Teens Hezekiah Nixon and Sean Davis are first seen dressed in all black outside a restaurant across the street from the church. For about 20 to 30 minutes, the two people appear to survey the area.
At one point, one of them could be seen holding a handgun, while the other appeared to be hiding something under his jacket, possibly another firearm.
And at one point, you see one holding a handgun and another hiding something under their clothes. Eventually, they cross the street and open fire.
The two men slowly crossed the street, surveying the area, and at just the right moment, they unleashed a barrage of fire guns. Within seconds, chaos unfolded, and mourners scattered in every direction, fighting for their lives. The ambush was no accident. It was a carefully calculated attack aimed at causing maximum destruction. And while the gunfire rained down on the crowd, John's family was forced to endure yet another tragedy on the day they were supposed to lay him to rest. As law enforcement responded to the scene, the wounded were quickly transported to nearby hospitals. Miraculously, all 5 of the victims who were struck by gunfire survived, though their emotional scars would linger far longer than the physical ones. The community, already devastated by John's death, now had to grapple with the aftermath of yet another senseless act of violence.
We need to make sure that this never happens again. And we will be working around the clock to do whatever's necessary to apprehend those that did this heinous thing today.
The investigation into the shooting at the funeral quickly turned into a race to find those responsible for the attack.
I'm tired of seeing mothers crying. I'm tired of seeing people in pain. I'm tired of seeing situations like this.
On some senseless over some argument that automatically ended up in gunplay.
Conflict resolution that's going to be resolved with gunfire is going to result in innocent victims like you see in this particular case. Their lives are cut short for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
However, the most shocking revelation was yet to come.
I never thought we'd be in a situation where someone like Rev has done so much for the community would see her church shut up at a funeral. Just never could imagine it. Never. That we would shut up holy ground. That we would be here. Man, ask the community. I know it's tough right now. I know that there's a lot of families and friends who are hurting right now. And I know a lot of them feel like they should do something. So I wanted to do something with you. I want you to call and tell us what you know. I need you to speak up and say something.
As officers began to piece together what had happened, surveillance footage from the church and nearby streets played a crucial role in helping law enforcement piece together the events of that tragic day. Cameras captured a black car near the church before and after the shooting became a key piece of evidence, leading investigators to track down the suspects. Later that day, police located the abandoned black vehicle near Brighton Heights, not far from the crime scene. Using footage from multiple surveillance cameras in the area, investigators traced the suspects' movements, eventually leading them to a residential area in McKees Rocks. There, they found Sean Davis and Hezekiah Nixon. The two were arrested without incident, their attempt to flee the scene foiled by traffic. When they were arrested, the two suspects were trapped in traffic on the McKees Rocks Bridge, their escape route blocked.
Police stopped Nixon and Davis in the vehicle on the McKees Rocks Bridge.
You got 2 in custody.
As law enforcement approached, both men attempted to flee. One dropped a handgun as officers closed in, while the other, in a desperate move, tossed his weapon into the river below.
Nixon ran from the vehicle and threw a firearm into the river, and Davis dropped a gun on the roadway.
See if we can get any kind of divers here. We're going to need this weapon.
But no matter how hard they tried to evade capture, their actions wouldn't shield them from the consequences. Both Sean and Hezekiah were charged with attempted homicide, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, and firearms violations. Investigators also uncovered evidence that suggested the two were involved in the earlier shooting that claimed John's life. With the suspects now in custody, law enforcement began to piece together a chilling picture of a planned attack that left not only John's family, but an entire community shaken to its core. Law enforcement worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading up to the attack. The arrest of Sean Davis and Hezekiah Nixon provided some relief, but many questions remained unanswered. How did the suspects know the funeral would be the site of this ambush? Was there a deeper motive behind the attack? Was John Hornezes Jr. really the intended target, or was his death just a prelude to a more significant act of violence? Despite the arrests, some in the community believed there was more to the story. There were whispers that John's involvement with certain individuals or groups may have attracted the danger that led to his death. However, his family firmly denied any connection to gangs or illegal activity. To them, John was a young man trying to better his life. His passion for basketball, his commitment to family, and his love for his community defined him. He was not a gang member or someone who sought trouble. The arrest of Davis and Nixon brought some closure, but it didn't bring peace. The Hornez family, still mourning their son, now had to deal with the emotional fallout of what happened at the funeral. For them, it wasn't just about getting justice for John. It was about coming to terms with the fact that their community was in crisis and that it was becoming increasingly difficult to protect their loved ones from the violence that seemed to have no end. One of the most painful aspects of the case was the failure of law enforcement to provide the level of security that had been requested for the funeral. The Hornez family had expressed their concerns, fearing that emotions surrounding John's death might lead to more violence. Despite the request for officers to be present at the funeral, 2 officers had been mistakenly assigned to the wrong location, resulting in their absence during the attack. This failure added another layer of pain for the family, who were already struggling with the brutal loss of their loved one. The police department admitted its mistake, and the 2 officers involved were suspended. However, many felt that this was not enough. The tragic events at the funeral raised serious questions about the effectiveness of law enforcement in handling sensitive situations like funerals, where tensions are high and emotions are raw. Should there have been more precautions taken to ensure the safety of those attending the service? Was the failure to provide proper security and oversight, or was it symptomatic of a larger problem within the department? As the investigation continued, the Hornez family faced the difficult task of navigating their grief while also pushing for justice. They were left with more questions than answers, and the emotional toll of the funeral shooting weighed heavily on their hearts. They wanted justice for John, but they also wanted to ensure that this type of violence didn't happen again. The case of John James Hornezes Jr. is a painful reminder of the dangers that lurk in a world of unresolved disputes, where violence can escalate without warning. It also serves as a sobering call for change, not just in law enforcement practices, but in the way society addresses issues of youth violence, gang involvement, and community safety. John's life may have been cut short, but his story serves as a powerful testament to the importance of protecting our loved ones, standing up for what's right, and never giving up on the fight for a better future. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.